Hey, what's going on? What's going on? Thank you for watching, live streaming again for a change. And I wanted to just reflect really on a couple of things to do with how modern life is absolutely crazy, if you think about it. There are so many aspects of modern life, and I'm talking about modern life here in the UK, talking about countries like the UK, the USA, and probably around the world as well. But you know, if we're honest with ourselves, we have to conclude that you know life is crazy. Yeah, big ups, man. Big ups, Christian. Long time, long time. Yeah, I'm back on the YouTube in for a little while now. Obviously, well, we got time working from home and all this sort of stuff. We've got a bit of time to be live streaming and making a few videos. So yeah, nice to see you. Peace. And listen, yeah, I wanted to do just a little short reflection on how mad our lives are. In this modern day Babylon that we're living in. Like, it's a crazy world we're living in. I'm good, thank you. I'm good. How are you doing? How you doing, brother? You all good? Hope you're all well. And chime in as well if you got anything to add to what I'm going to say now. Then chime in. But yeah. So what am I talking about? I'm talking about the fact that here in the UK, for example, we're talking about how everyone's at home. Everyone who can work from home is working from home currently, and for the first time in probably ever, or the first time for most of us ever, we're spending the vast majority of the time in our houses or in our flats or in our homes than anywhere else. And this is weird. For a lot of us, this is very, very weird. But it's actually normality that's weird if you think about it. How we spend so much money to keep a roof over our head, be it rent, be it mortgage, but then we work from home, keeping the roof over our head, but then we use all of the time that we have to get out of the house to go to some office somewhere or some factory or to drive a vehicle or to do whatever it is, all hours of the day, to keep the roof over our head that really we're only going to spend a few hours in at best. The maximum we're going to spend of an average day is half the day, maybe. And even a lot of that half is spent sleeping. It's mad if you think about it. That's not a healthy way of living, is it? That you've got a home and you're actually going to spend most of your time outside of the home to keep that home, And then it gets worse because if you've got family, then you're not going to see your family for a good half of the day. Why? Because you're out getting money, you're out doing a job to keep the roof over your head that you're not going to spend much time in. And also, you've got these children or wife or husband or whatever that you're not going to see for half the day because you're out keeping the roof, trying to keep that roof over your head. There's a quote that people ascribe to someone like Eleanor Roosevelt or someone like that, some American woman. But it's something like, it's the craziness of you're out working your butt off to basically keep a roof over your head that you're not going to be able to be in very often. And also there's a travel factor of it. And this is specifically what's hitting me has been what's so crazy about the situation. We spend so much of our time traveling. If you're in London, or even if you don't live in London, if you live in the vicinity of London, and the same goes for any other city around the world, really, so many people are spending hours a day to get to that city in order to do the work, to keep the roof over their head. A lot of people are traveling in a car. The only reason why we've got a car here, and frankly, during this lockdown, we've used that car maybe about 5 times. That's in about 10, 11 weeks. There's no point in having a car, frankly. The only reason why we really have that car is to commute, mainly, and the odd shopping trip as well, to be fair. But that's, we could share a car. We could share a car with our neighbours for all we you know, for all it matters. We could share a car with our friends. We could share a car. But no, we've got this mindset of, I've got to have my own car. What for? You're not going to use it for most of the week. You're paying tax, you're paying insurance, all this stuff. You're not going to use your car for most of the time. So let me try and kind of gather my thoughts on what I'm saying. People are talking about how the lockdown is damaging the economy. You know, people are saying this in the UK. People are probably saying it in many other countries around the world. It's damaging the economy. It's damaging the economy. But what the hell is the economy? And why is it so much more important than people? Why is it so much more important than people's health and wealth and well-being? Why is it that no one's bothered about the fact that most people don't see their children throughout the whole day? Most people don't spend much time with their loved ones for most of their lives. No one cares about that because the economy, you know, the economy must keep going. The economy must, you know, must continue to thrive and prosper. But what is this economy? When you start to break it down, the economy is just a lot of what people refer to as the economy is the ability for some people to continue to make a killing off other people's work, frankly. You know, I've read some good articles from people saying, look, at the end of the day, right now, I think David Graeber, that's the guy's name, David Graeber, and he's talking about how the fact that most of us are able to do, he provocatively says that people who are able to do their jobs from home remotely, a lot of those people's jobs are probably not really worth it. And I work from home, so, you know, I'm not cussing anybody else. This is like, because it's basically saying that so many of the jobs that people do are just not really contributing to keeping people fed, clothed, sheltered, you know. And what are the things? There's a few jobs that are keeping people fed, clothed, watered, healthy. Those are obviously are, you know, in food supply, in farming, in healthcare, in transportation, in logistics, all this kind of stuff. That's the critical stuff. Without that stuff, we will all perish, you know. But those jobs are the least paying jobs. Those people don't get any, you know, those people don't get anywhere near the remuneration of, say, someone who is a corporate lawyer. What does a corporate lawyer add to anything? You know, not much. What are they doing? They're just, or a landlord. Now, I know this is not going to go down very well, but what's a landlord really adding? They didn't build the house, you know. Okay, some of it is to do with their maintaining the property. That's cool. You're maintaining, that's fine. You're maintaining the property. But does it cost so much more to maintain a London property than it does to maintain a Sheffield property? No, it's the same size building. You know, that London landlord is getting all that much more of, you know, money just purely because he or she was lucky enough or greedy enough or, you know, given the opportunity enough to just so happen to have that to purchase that house in London, a particular part of London, and then they benefit from the fact that there's a train station nearby, there's good places to go out nearby, there's good schools and so forth. You know, adding nothing. Most of that money adding nothing to the pie, but they're taking from the pie, adding nothing to the pie, taking from the pie. So what was I saying? So yeah, it's kind of for me, it's exposing this whole lockdown. I'll come to the comments in a minute. This whole lockdown is exposing just how much work that takes place that is elevated up to being like, oh, this is so important. This is such an important thing that you do, you know, corporate people, you know, the amount of people who work in the fire sector, I mean, finance, insurance, and real estate, all those people, so many people who work in those sectors, adding nothing, getting paid so much money. Let me just come to this comment from Christian. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's true. That's true. So he said that the lockdown's been a kind of blessing from another perspective. It's shown how far technology has come. Yeah, we're capable of accomplishing work from home. Of course, traveling to the office not necessary. Yeah, but just to talk about that, I mean, I just don't get it. I get a train. I don't live in London. I get a train to London. All these people, most of the people on the same train as me, they're doing the same kind of jobs I do, which is jobs that you can just do on a computer. All right, you might be speaking to people. You can speak to people on your computer. You know, a lot of what is considered work can be done remotely, and it's necessary. A lot of this work is necessary work. You know, I'm not saying that anyone who works from home. I don't agree with David Graeber that a lot of work that can be done from home is unnecessary. But that absolutely shows that there's a. I think actually on that point about it shows how technology has advanced. It makes me think of what was holding back. Oh, this actually, thanks, bro. This actually brings me to one of the key points that I want to make. What has been keeping so many of us from being able to work from home previously? Really and truly. Okay, it's good to interact with people in the office. That's one thing I'll say, like it does, particularly if you're on your own, if you don't have family or if you don't live with anybody or whatever, that social interaction is actually maintaining your mental well-being, you know. And I'm seeing it. I'm seeing people who are really, really struggling as a result of not really being able to interact with people. And yes, that is a thing. The workplace is a social space, you know, and it's just not the same. Whereas you might be in an office and you can, you know, I was chatting to a brother yesterday saying you can have all these interactions with people, even if they're only 2 minutes. Like, how you doing? Yeah, long time no see. Oh, I like your hair. Blah, blah, blah. You know, how's your weekend? You learn every now and again. You'll have a bit more of a deep conversation and so forth. That aspect of the social aspect of work is really missing, and that's a bad thing. And I think I'll go on to the good. I'll go on to another point, but it does go to show. What am I saying? As much as it shows how much technology has indeed advanced and how much we can work from home and so forth. It frees us so much, as you've said there, bruv, to be able to spend time on ourselves, exercise more, you know, walking. I've been going out for walks particularly early on, going out for walks with my family, you know, wife and children. Never doing that before, but now going out for a nice sunny day walk, spending time in a garden. Barely spent time in that garden up till now, really. But now we're blessed with the weather being really nice, spending time in that garden. And it shows, you know, I'm privileged in that regards because there are people who don't have gardens. There's people who don't really have the kind of area where you can walk around and you know, it's a nice part of town and so forth. It kind of, it really does bring home how even those of us who are African living in the UK, some of us are basically bought into the system and we're getting benefits as a result of it that we should definitely not take for granted, you know. And we should always be aware of that and be ready for doing what we can to contribute to, you know, to the well-being of others. And that's it. One of the reasons I think people want to get things moving again with regard to the lockdown. I'm not a big fan of lockdown, by the way. I'm not like lockdown is the answer to everything. It's great, but I'm thinking about all those places in London. Think about all of those coffee shops, all of those gyms that charge extortionate amounts of money, all of those restaurants. It's all service industries, isn't it? All of those news agents, whatever you want to call, all of those places in town centres, they're quiet now. You know, there's a lot of the economy that depends upon people commuting here, there, and everywhere to work. Transport is another one. A lot of the economy, so-called, depends on people being on the commuting, you know, and it shows that, but that's all exposed. That kind of what's the word? Stack of cards, house of cards is basically exposed because now what you're going to do? Actually, now we don't need to go in anymore, and I actually do think that there's going to be a bit of a sea change, at least in countries like Britain. There's going to be a sea change where people are going to start to realize that actually that whole you know, making people travel in to, you know, tens and sometimes I remember I worked in London once a few years ago. Some guy used to come in from Leicester. Leicester's a good 150 miles away, maybe 200 plus miles away from London, commuting every day to get to Leicester. Why? He wasn't doing anything physical. He was literally just doing stuff on computers that he could have done remotely. And so I think this is going to lead to a sea change, and people are going to start to really think about reevaluate our lives and just think, what is the system all about? Why are we on this treadmill that's requiring us to get up before dark and to come home before dark? Most of that time we spend traveling, you know. Soon enough, we will all be implementing the Venus Project ideas of resource-based system. Now, I'm not that well up to date on the Venus Project. I've heard of it, but I hope so. From what I know about the Venus Project and from what I've seen, this should force us. This should cause us to really start to question what the, you know what I mean? How have we allowed ourselves to get into this kind of situation? How have we allowed ourselves to live such a crazy life? You know, how have we allowed ourselves, for example, there are so many people who are seeing their, I've got a very young child. He's, you know, under a year old. My wife's on maternity leave. I would never be spending this amount of time with him like I was if unless this lockdown had been happening. You know, with my firstborn, it was good. There were a few things happened and I was able to spend quite a lot of time at home. I had a job fairly nearby as well for a period of time. But in normal circumstances, most fathers in particular are not going to be seeing much of their children. You know, women, mothers, okay, they get the opportunity to have that maternity leave, but it's hard work. You know, it's not a holiday. It's kind of hard work. We need to be looking as societies, as communities. We need to be looking at that sort of thing and thinking, we need to change that. Why have we allowed ourselves to get into that situation where the whole purpose of our family life, which is raising families and being together and so forth, is basically ripped apart because of what? To make sure that the economy can keep kind of rolling round and round, you know? So yeah, my worry with regard to that, we should be really radically rethinking what we do. But when you've got the media that is owned and controlled by billionaires, and when you've got the school system, which is basically designed to churn out people to fit into the system, when you've got, you know, when you've got such a low level of consciousness now thinking specifically about Africans, I want to talk in a second about George Floyd. When you've got such a low level of consciousness, unfortunately, generally speaking, and by low level of consciousness, I mean a lot of African people, maybe most, are just not thinking. A lot of African people in the UK that I know of, and I'm sure this is the same in the US and elsewhere, are thinking of, how can I make sure that I'm alive? How can I make sure my family is alive and well? And how can I just kind of enjoy myself enough within all of this madness of this modern world? They're not thinking about how can we change the system. They're not thinking about how can we challenge this system that is troubling us all the time. And George Floyd, may he rest in peace. And I've been on YouTube for what, 11 years. In that time, I've seen this kind of stuff happen over and over again, from Trayvon Martin to Eric Garner, to Smiley Culture, to in the UK, to even Mark Duggan, for all the gangsterism that he was supposed to have been taken, you know, even in all these people being killed by the police. And the same thing happens. Everyone gets riled up. There was apparently demonstrations here in London and in different parts of the UK over it. And yet, this was probably the first time that a lot of these people have even thought about race and being black and the situation for black people in months, probably, you know. And it's I don't know. I'm not sure what it's going to take for African people, black people, to start to think more consistently about these issues. I just don't know what it's going to take. And all this, even with regard to George Floyd's murder, it almost feels like we're being played again by the media. It almost feels, getting dark again, it almost feels like, you know, why are we getting riled up about this particular murder now? He can't be the only person who's been killed by the police, certainly not in the US recently. You know, yes, it's because it's been caught on video, frankly, but then should we be so easily kind of led around on a stick? I feel like sometimes we're kind of being puppeteered rather than setting our own agenda, rather than having a distinct specific agenda that we're working through, and we're making those connections and we're making those plans and whatnot. So I think of people like the BAIO, the Black, what's it called? Black, is it Afrikstan? Mr. Holip's is in Holip's crew. You know, they've been talking about their land infrastructure and nationhood project all the time I've been on YouTube, and they've probably been doing it before. They've been consistent, and they've been following on that for all of these years, and just surviving. Just the fact that that's still going now shows that they're serious, and they're not going to be swayed. But when stuff happens, they incorporate these things into their project that they're working on. Sadly, they're like in the very small minority of people who are doing that. You know, and until I don't know what it's going to take to make more and more African people kind of more active, generally speaking, so that, or even I suppose it's even thinking more about being an African, being black, and preparing ourselves so that when these things happen, we're not terrified and shocked and angry, but we're actually, yes, we're angry, but we're always angry because this system is always you know on our backs. I want to just say something as well. While I've got a couple of people watching, I want to actually reflect on my journey as well in the last few years since I was last very active on AfricansArise, say about 2015. You know, I've married, children, moved out, stepped away from the struggle, stepped away from the movement, the wider movement. And in that time, I was going down a road where you'll see some of my videos that I did, talking about black crime, talking about how we need to sort ourselves out, talking about how, you know, talking about some of the issues that we as African people need to deal with internally. And what I've come to realize, actually, particularly, I think it's having children has had this big effect on me. What I've come to realize is that I'm not ashamed that I did those videos. I'm not ashamed to have gone through those thoughts, but I've realized that I should have probably kept those thoughts internal, and I should have probably been humble enough to speak to people that I know and to kind of work through them without going on YouTube and making videos about them. Because I've learned is that the kind of people who like those videos are racist white people, frankly, mainly. And all I was doing with some of those videos, not all of them, but some of those videos, all I was doing was adding fodder, adding fuel to their machinery. And I regret that in a sense. I do regret that because now I've come to realize that, particularly, I think maybe living in an area where there's not that many black people, there's a few, we're not that far from London, but there's a few. I've come to realize that, look, man, I'm a lot more aware of the relationship between blackness and whiteness than I was when I was in London. And I can't have my children growing up thinking that they're just black, you know, black-faced white people, you know. I can't have them behaving like that. So my aim with this channel over the next, as I get time, I've only got time now because thankfully they've gone out. You know, as I get time, you know, I want to be starting to put out some more content again, having some more guests. I was speaking to Kevin, who was on my the myth of black buying power. I was speaking to him yesterday evening for the first time in a long time, and that was like an absolutely amazing conversation. I definitely want to get him on board to start having some discussions, because I've realized that this AfricansArise is bigger than me as an individual. It's bigger than me. It's bigger than you know, what's good for me. It's not just about what is convenient for me or what makes sense to me necessarily. I really do feel that I've got a responsibility with this to leave some kind of legacy for our people. You know, these videos take a kind of life of their own. Sometimes I talk about stuff, and half the videos I've made, for example, I couldn't really tell you exactly what I said in them because I was in a particular period in my life where I was very studious and you know, looking into these things deeply. And it's like once you set that video off, it gets shared here, it gets shared there. Someone comments here, someone comments there. Someone will, you know, one YouTuber here told me that, you know, I've been a really massive inspiration on him, and I'm like, all right. And it goes to show, particularly from a UK context, I cannot think of any other UK-based. Oh, no, we'll look at that comment in a minute. I can't think of any other UK-based African vloggers. who are not talking about. I said the scene has changed over the last few years. There's a lot more black women, African women who do beauty stuff, hair stuff. What's her name? What's that guy? Patricia Bright. My wife turned me on to this Patricia Bright when we first met, and I was like, she's just talking about makeup and fashion. Literally, she's just talking about her life. There's a lot of that sort of stuff. Backchat London, you know, that's on there. There, you know, comedy stuff. But I honestly can't think of many. If can I? Okay, you've got Shakara Bandaka, you know, a great brother he does a lot of debate videos. You know, check him out as well. I know him personally as well. Good brother from the Al-Kibbalan revivalist movement. He's doing videos. Got Kush TV, they're doing their stuff. The Center for Pan-African Thought, they're doing their stuff. You know, I'm sure there's others, but I can't think of many others than them. And they were all there back 5 years ago, you know. Christian, you said, talking about me, you were the only YouTube I used to watch when I was growing up. I was mad young, believe it or not. Okay, probably shouldn't ask how young you were, but yeah, you know, it's humbling. It's humbling to hear that kind of thing. He says, was in my early 20s looking for good African intellectual discussions on YouTube. Black American YouTube intellect channels was about too much. Yeah, it's true, yeah. And that's the thing. That's like, I was aware of the fact that there's not that much other UK stuff out there, but I didn't join the dots that, fam, there are brothers, mainly brothers. Most of my viewers are male, but some women and females as well. That, you know, there's a lot of these people out there who are enjoying the content that I'm putting out, you know, and it's you've said there, you were looking for good African intellectual discussions. That's what I'm trying to do, you know. That's what I'm trying to do. And I think now, for example, maybe there's going to be some youngsters who are going to be watching this kind of video. I gathered from your name that you're Congolese. Yeah, Yaka, Christian Yaka Nation. All right. Yeah, big ups, my Congolese family. Congo, oh gosh, don't get me started on Congo, man. What a great country, but what a wronged against country of people, a nation of people, nations of people in the Congo. You know, not least by, unfortunately, some elements from Uganda. But that's a topic for another video. One thing I want to talk anyway, but I won't bring up some new subjects because time's of the essence. So yeah, that's what I'm going to try and do with AfricansArise. I'm going to try and get it back up and running. I'm very grateful for brothers like Christian and many of you as well who've commented on other videos, and I'm sure will comment on these as well, who have been watching in the past, who've been keeping up to date. And I want to learn as well. That's the other thing to say, is that this can't just be me talking, because I ain't got that much to talk about, and stuff that I often talk about, I don't really know what I'm talking about. You know, I'm speculating on stuff often. I get the most value really from comments that people make and from the input that people give, because it's like a sharing of ideas, and that's what we're all about as a people, you know. But yeah, AfricansArise is back, and AfricansArise is black. And AfricansArise is back forever, and AfricansArise is black forever. That could actually be my new tagline. Anyway. Yeah, cool, man. So that's what I wanted to kind of reason a little bit on the madness of modern life. Hope you got something out of it. And you know what? Let's do this, man. Let's make something new come out of this. Let's bring something new and fresh, and let's bring a new life out of this death that is all around us right about now. So peace, my brother Christian. Yes, Congo for another day. So much to be talking about with regard to Congo, but yeah, let's do this. Take care. Thanks for joining, and I will see y'all's next time. Look out for some new videos with my brother Kevin. Hopefully, if I can, if I can get his good books and persuade him to come on here and start, dropping some gems. If you haven't seen the video that we did before about Black Buying Power, check it out. I'll put it in the video description once I've uploaded it and so on. All right. Peace outie. Amandla Ngawetu. All right. Peace.